ஸோ எல்லாத்துக்கும் தெரியும், அதுக்கு இன்ட்ரோடக்ஷன் தேவையில்லைன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். பட் எனியா அக்கா ஆந்திரால பிறந்தது, தெலுங்குல பிறந்து ஒடிசால வந்து ஆண்டோட ஊழியத்தை செய்து, ஸோ 3 வகை கலாச்சாரத்தை உடைய ஒரு ஸ்திரீ அக்கான்னு சொல்லலாம். ஸோ ஆந்திரா, தமிழ்நாடு, ஒரிசா இப்படிப்பட்ட வித்தியாசமான முறையில் ஆண்டவர் அவங்களை பயன்படுத்துகிறார். அவங்களுடைய சிஎம்சில பேத்தாலஜி முடிச்சாங்க. தொடர்ந்து ஆண்டோடைய பணியில மருத்துவத்துல விசேஷமா மல்கன்கிரி டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட்ல ஆண்டோட பல வகையில பயன்படுத்திட்டு இருக்கிறார். வெரி ஆக்டிவ் உமன் அப்படின்னு நம்ம சொல்லலாம். எப்ப நான் பார்த்திருக்கும் போது நாங்க மிஷன்னா ஹார்ட் இஸ் ஃபார் மிஷன் கமிட்டடா அவங்க பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கிறத பார்த்தது உண்டு. எல்லாத்துக்கும் அது தெரியும். ஸோ ஈவன் ஆன்டி டாக்டர் ஐரிஸ் பால் ஆன்டி செய்த காரியங்கள் தொடர்ந்து இட்ஸ் கமிங் டு த ஜென்ரேஷன் ஆஃப்டர் ஜென்ரேஷன். அக்கா அதை எடுத்து அந்த காரியங்கள் செய்து கொண்டிருக்கிறாங்க. தொடர்ந்து அவங்களுடைய ரீச்சிங் ஹேண்ட் சொசைட்டில இஸ் a மெடிக்கல் ஆஃபீஸர். ரெமோனன் இஸ் an எக்ஸிகியூட்டிவ் செக்ரட்டரி ஆஃப் ரீச்சிங் ஹேண்ட் சொசைட்டி, RHS சொல்லி அந்த ஆர்கனைசேஷன்ல. ஸோ தொடர்ந்து அவங்க நம்மத்துல இருக்கிறதுக்கு இது ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமான காரியம். I really want to welcome you, Akka, and of Tamil Mission and Making Missionary சார்பாக. So Akka will share from Word of God. So over to Dr. Susan Remo. Akka, mute. Please unmute your mic.
எல்லாத்துக்கும் வணக்கம். Yeah, today I want to share our journey when we were diagnosed with COVID. Yes. So especially thank you, Carolyn, for that wonderful worship. And this is our journey, Remo and I, when we walked through this journey together. Can you put the next slide? God was very abundantly close to us as we went through this journey. This was and all of you were part of this journey with us. We had our exposure when we had friends come over. It was Nariyanala, that uncle and auntie were saying they wanted to come and visit, and they've been planning for a long time. And then when they visited us, we had a really wonderful time. On the time that then they had fallen sick when they were at home, and then we had fallen sick as soon as they left. When we look through, the first person who became sick was Remo, and then Remo had lost his smell and taste. And by the time I had developed fever, and by the second day, when Remo said that he lost his smell and taste, we decided that we will go and check for COVID. And in the government hospital, when we checked, we were diagnosed to be positive, and we immediately decided to go to our clinic for quarantining ourselves, to keep ourselves away. Children were away, and we were there together. At that time, that was a very wonderful time for us, though through sicknesses. This was the worst that God gave me. Every time that we went through a very severe crisis, there was a word that always comforted us. Even when I look back, when Remo was very sick and in Hyderabad, he was traveling and he suddenly fell sick and he walked into a hospital and he was put in an ICU. At that time also, after he came out of the ICU, there was one very clear verse which said, one passage from John, after this was to glorify God. Similarly, I was not asking God why, what, how, but then this was the verse that came to me. 2 Corinthians 1st chapter 3 to 5 verses. It says he's a God of all comfort who comforts us, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble. He is a God of comfort. He comforts us. We need to receive that comfort, and we need to comfort others. The first day when we had the symptoms, Remo, next slide, please, Remo. The next, we decided these two things. First thing was to not to move from Malkangiri. Whatever happens, whatever complications happen, this was Remo's prayer, and I knew that this is what the Lord wanted us to do. And we said, Amen, we will not go anywhere, whatever happens from Malkangiri. Every day had its new challenges. Every day, new difficulties arose. There was fever, there was diarrhea, and one by one the children started falling sick, and uh, then Remo's sister also became sick, and then food became a problem, and but every day as we cried out, there was God's providence. There was God's providence. This verse helped me. I mean, when I look back, this is the testimony I could give to people who were praying for us, that this poor man cried out and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. Every problem, I mean, one thing we hear and immediately there was a solution from somewhere that uh, God provided for us. Remo, next slide, please. What was the encouraging word? What were the lessons that we learned? What we did after this experience? Through the time of quarantine, Remo did videos which were very encouraging to believers. If you want probably we can put it in the group after this. We talked about why me, why me, why the question of why me. The second was about why am I alive? What is the reason that God has put me alive today? And the third one was about fear of death, that all things work together for good. When we faced this time, the problems that we faced helped us as we came out to respond to the people in and around Malkangiri in the following ways. The problem that we faced was with food, cooked food. Fever was there, we were very exhausted, and food had to be brought from the hotel. So then that was the time when we came out of it, the first thing that Remo said was that if there is any need for anybody who is positive, who needs cooked food, we will give. So we made one of our staff made a brochure, and then the people also responded in such a marvelous way that they put it in all their WhatsApp status, and the word went around, and people started calling us for help regarding food, not cooked food, but then they asked for ration. So that way we were able to respond to people with ration for 1 week for those who were sick. Then the different need was different. In some places it was only bread and milk and some bananas. In some places it was about distributing masks and some dry foods, and in some places without any work people were there when the ration for 2 weeks were given to the people. Then the returning migrants had started. People were returning back from Andhra Pradesh and from Tamil Nadu, and they were reaching the Motu border. When they reached there, then the Tehsildar there, somebody reached Remo saying that, can you provide food for them? I mean, there was when Remo asked all our staff, everybody was so excited to do this. Then we decided on few men staff we would do it, and how beautifully the work was being coordinated and done is so marvelous. People, the bus, when it moves, people used to, the Tehsildar would phone, give a call, and there was one person to receive that, and then arrange for the food from a local hotel person, and he would cook in the next 1.5 hours till the bus moved to Malkangiri, and then there were people to go pick up the food and pack food and the water, and then come and wait for the bus to come and then load it on the. There were people waiting at the bus to receive the food and then load it onto the bus. It's amazing because every person in this work together as a mission towards them, including the person in the hotel. He was working for food, but then I really understood his commitment when he would refuse going to any family functions just because he had taken up this work on himself. Finally, only on last Sunday, he decided to go for a very close his niece's wedding, and even that he arranged for somebody else to cook for us before he left. So uh, there is we were able to provide food for the returning migrants. Then we also helped the staff and the evangelists train to equip them with medicines and by teleconsultation. It was marvelous to see that when people panicked, it was our believers, our evangelists, who stood up to serve them in their own villages and in the surrounding villages. When they knew that people were sick, they went to go and talk to them, tell them, motivate them to go to the hospital, and even when they were sick, to bring food and medicines, they were helping them. I am telling this because this has been our encouragement, and that it will be an encouragement for you as all of you work in fields as many of you are working in fields as missionaries. And the fourth thing that we could do staying away was doing teleconsultation from different for different volunteering organizations. Remo was sitting with a group in Chennai and working together, trying to help people understand their symptoms and helping them get admission in hospitals. Next slide. For devotion for today, I chose this verse. This is the verse that the Lord has put in my heart. It's from Isaiah 6, verse 9 and 10. I would really appreciate if one of you would read this verse for me in Tamil.
Repeat, Isaiah.
Isaiah 6, 9 and 10.
நமக்கு ஒரு பாலகன் பிறந்தார்,
அவர் நீ போய் இந்த ஜனங்களை நோக்கி, நீங்கள் காதார கேட்டும் உணராமலும் கண்ணார கண்டும் அறியாமலும் இருங்கள் என்று சொல். இந்த ஜனங்கள் தங்கள் கண்களினால் காணாமலும் தங்கள் காதுகளினால் கேளாமலும் தங்கள் இருதயத்தினால் உணர்ந்து குணப்படாமலும் நான் அவர்களை ஆரோக்கியமாக்காமல் இருக்க, நீ அவர்கள் இருதயத்தை கொளுத்தாக்கி அவர்கள் காதுகளை மந்தப்படுத்தி அவர்கள் கண்களை மூடிப்போடு என்றார்.
Okay, so this verse talks about returning and to be healed. Why this verse stayed with me is because this verse keeps repeating in Matthew's gospel, in the Mark's gospel, and also in the Luke's gospel, and even in Acts. Paul talks about this in 28 chapter 26 and 27 verses. He says, you keep on hearing but don't understand, keep on seeing but you do not perceive. And Jesus mentions this every time. All the three gospels, Matthew, Mark and Luke, mention this verse in the context of the sower and the seed, the four types of seed which are sown in the field. Okay, so when disciples came back to talk to Jesus remember this verse saying that the eyes, ears are heavy. They see with their eyes, but they don't perceive. Hear with their ears, um, but they don't understand. And so that they may return and they may be healed. I always like to see passages on being healed, but the word in Mark and in also in Luke it says return and be healed, and in Mark it also says, in Matthew it says return and heal, but in Mark it says that their sins be forgiven. At this time, I want to tell you about what are we seeing, what are we hearing, and what are we understanding. There are, if we go to the Remo, can we go to the next slide, please? So when we see and when we look and understand what the Lord wants us to see, hear, and understand, this verse I really love when when I think about this passage. It says in John 4 and verse 35. Can somebody help me with this verse, please?
அறுப்பு காலம் வருகிறதுக்கு இன்னும் 4 மாதம் செல்லும் என்று நீங்கள் சொல்லுகிறது இல்லையா? இதோ வயல் நிலங்கள் இப்பொழுதே அறுப்புக்கு விளைந்திருக்கிறது என்று உங்கள் கண்களை ஏறெடுத்து பாருங்கள் என்று நான் உங்களுக்கு சொல்கிறேன்.
So the Lord was telling his disciples, saying that lift your eyes and look at the fields, for they are already ready for harvest. They are already white for harvest. Lift up your eyes and see. I want to give you, I want to just talk with you as we work with people, as we work as teams. We are faced with different, all of us are faced with different circumstances. The fields are different, the people are different, the needs are different. The way that we can present the gospel to them is different. What do we see? What do we see when we go? I've seen 3 or 4 different types of people. They go, they see, they literally see with the Lord's eyes, with the compassionate eyes. They immediately move. They move to respond in their own way. When they can't respond, then they come for help. They ask others for help. And then they say, okay, I cannot do this on my own. If you can help me, we can reach out to the people. I need to do this. This is the need in this place. I need to reach out to these people. And this, I think this is the way that the Lord is putting in my heart to do it for them. Then they move you to the position. I have seen in our lives that the one a totally new program started when this need was met, and then the way for the program, and it's still continuing to happen in a way that we can help those people to and reach out to those people to see their need and to understand their need somehow, somewhere, that the Lord will reach out to them. Remo always says this one thing, that that one person doesn't bring a person to Christ. Even if we look into our own lives, there have been stages, there have been people, many circumstances that led us to Jesus. So who are we? Who are we to listen, to see that the need of that person? Unless we see it through the eyes of our God, through the eyes of our Creator, we can never make a difference to reach out to the people. Even if you reach them out to the with the water to drink, or to reach them out with a kind word, reach them out with a with medicines for the need that they have, the love and the compassion that we show to them, that will question their hearts about what is happening. And the second type of people that I see are people who go to the field day after day. They go to the field day after day. They are seeing what is needing to be done, but they are going finishing their work, they are coming back. It is an everyday process that is happening. But then when you ask at the end of the month, what did you do? What is the need of the place? They do not have anything to reply to, unless there is a program which is already placed, or this is what you can do in the village. Then they say, okay, then they get up, then they arise, and then they start looking, how can I make this program fulfill in my field, in my place of work. The third type of people are there who, even after you show an example, they just cannot see the harvest that is there. There is, I mean, hours and hours of telling them, scolding, nothing can help them to see the fields which they are in, see the people who are in need, to identify people who are in need. People are believers, people are missionaries, but they just cannot see the way they can engage in the community in a more effective way, in a radical way, in a dynamic way. Our God works when we see the need. We need to see, we need to identify, and we need to then we can pray and work on towards what we see. Reflection every day, time spent in reflection every day about what has happened, what is it that I can do better tomorrow, or what is the problem that I can respond to tomorrow, or what is it that I can do today for these people. Reflection always helps. Reflection with the word of God, reflection in prayer, reflection with the people, with fellow believers. It helps. It helps us to see, it helps us to respond, it helps us to move forward, to bring the word very practically into the people around us. They may not accept. We really will never know who has come to know the Lord, who is looking at Jesus through our lives, or who is following Jesus in prayer in their hearts. We will never know. Remo always says this, saying that heaven will be full of surprises for us. People whom we think that they didn't know Jesus may be there, will be there in heaven, because they followed the path silently but faithfully to the Lord. Remo, can we go to the next slide? I just want to leave this with you, that the Lord will help us to see the needs around us, to hear the heart cry of God, and to understand the urgency of proclaiming His word wherever we are, however He wants us to proclaim His word. Thank you. Nandri.
அருமையான காரியங்கள் நம்ம கேட்டோம். ஆண்டவருடைய கண்கள் நம்முடைய வாழ்க்கையில தேவை.